Jimothy! 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 Shit, let me get him. I'll be right back. Hang on. Jimothy! Jimothy, stop! Yes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jimothy Stubble Bubble, and I'm joining you here today for a bit of a history lesson. Now, some of you might say, well, what are we going to learn about today, Jimothy? And if you just listen up, I'm going to tell you all about it. So, lately, there has been a bit of an uproar regarding the Warcraft community, mainly because there are so many different types of Warcraft now, and I've seen many people posting on Facebook and on Twitter about what is Warcraft, where did it come from, and where is it gonna go? When I did some research here, and I've actually been privy to the developments of Warcraft for quite some time. So, are you ready? I'm about to break it down for you here, start to finish, the beginnings of Warcraft to present day and beyond. Okay, are you ready for this? Let's begin. All right. So, the history of Warcraft begins with a young man known as J.R.R. Tolkien. And Tolkien is the gentleman who decided that elves, dwarves, men, and hobbits should be the main playable races in his book. And he created this book, which was widely popular by many young college students. Some people even went so far as to finish the books that he wrote. And there was a young hustling and bustling company known as Blizzard who wanted to make these books into a game. But as they tried to do this, they ran into a bunch of copyright issues, and the Tolkien estate has been notoriously difficult to interact with, so they gave them a hard no, you may not make a game of our book. So what did they do instead? They tried to make a game. They just went for it. They made a game of Helm's Deep. Now, if people know Helm's Deep, there's a huge fortress on the mountainside that men are trying to defend against the orcs that are attacking, and then the Tolkien estate attacked them and said, you can't do that, that's stealing a part from our book. So they just cut the Helm's Deep title and they just called it Orcs and Humans. So after they had Orcs and Humans, they introduced the world of Warcraft, which allows people to play as any basic adventurer in the world. They resized hobbits a little bit, made them smaller and called them gnomes, but they're still basically hobbits if you think about it. And then after that, they basically introduced a series of chores in World of Warcraft, and this was seen as a questionable move, but a lot of people really enjoyed this because it felt immersive, you know? It wasn't just military commander and you've got units running amok and running about and you're just telling them where to go like you're a general. You can actually be a person who has to do tedious tasks in this game, and many people loved this because they said, this tedium, it reminds me of something, it reminds me of my real life, of all these boring things I have to do that take way too long. So that ended up being a widespread success and caused World of Warcraft to be a bit of a cultural phenomenon there. And then they added in some different elements to Warcraft. They allowed the characters to fly, which allowed them to avoid conflict entirely. They could simply like fly with the birds. Worst case scenario, you get pooped on by someone's mount that's flying above you in the sky, but that's about it. They also added a competitive mode where you can attack other people in a small room. And then they also added a looking for group feature, which meant that you no longer had to talk to anyone in the game. And some people loved this. Other people are saying, well, the whole point of playing an MMO game is to communicate with other people. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag, you could say. And then they in the next expansion or one of the future ones, they just removed the talent system entirely. That was a very bold choice. I'm not sure whose idea that was, but you used to be able to specialize your character with the sequence of talent points in 3 different trees, and they just ripped that out of the game. They said it was making it too complicated. People had to have spreadsheets, and then it felt like homework, and it just really changed the design philosophy of the game. And then after a little bit, they decided to add pandas to the game. Pandas are animals that are basically bears, but they eat vegetables, and they said that that's something that people would want to play as in a game. I don't know, but they added pandas, and then they added a PvE difficulty slider, so you can use easy or a little bit less easy to medium to like kind of medium hard. That was basically the set that they have there, and that's player versus environment difficulty settings. And then after that, they allowed people to customize their outfits, so you no longer had to get gear. You could just look awesome by virtue of having a really good fashion sense and good taste of how to get the right outfit for your character. And then following that, they added, this is a really interesting one. They decided to make loot actually a bingo system. So normally you had to down a certain difficulty of boss, and there was a chance that it would drop a really valuable item. But they switched it to where whenever you're killing stuff, it's just like a bingo, where sometimes you just kill this basic boss, you kill it enough times, but then bingo, you just get an incredible item. And some people love this because that meant that they didn't have to fight the hard bosses. They could just win at bingo. So that was another controversial choice here. And then later on, they added a moose as a playable race. They said, we already have tauren, which are kind of like angry bulls or minotaurs. And a moose, they saw a moose get hit by a car, and the car was busted, and the moose was fine, so they decided to add a moose to the game. And then more recently, they have a World of Warcraft Layered Edition, which is you have different worlds of Warcraft that are all happening in kind of parallel dimensions, where sometimes people will phase shift through a dimension into the other dimension. It makes things kind of sci-fi futuristic here, which is it's adding in that sci-fi element to the high fantasy world that it is. And then after that, they added Shadowland, which is kind of like, whoops, we made a bunch of bad decisions with Warcraft. We're going to go back to the old design philosophy. And that's a bit of a, they just switched that one up. And then they're adding a Warcraft 3 remaster, build more farms hashtag, where it's Warcraft 3 again, but it has a little bit better graphics for the units, but they kept the environment the same, just so you could have your cake and eat it, where you have bad graphics and good graphics in the same game. So the people are saying, well, we could have Warcraft 3 with good graphics. You give them some good graphics. But then some people said, but I want to play it with bad graphics. You give them bad graphics too, so it's perfect. It's great for everyone with this one here. And then some people have even go so far with this return of the original World of Warcraft to do what's called role-playing, which it's kind of like acting almost in a way. And this was first innovated in a game called Grand Theft Auto. No one had ever thought to like put on a role of a character or have a backstory until they added this Grand Theft Auto game. So some people have been doing this in Warcraft. Let's take a look at this. I have a live example here for you. Yes. Battle shout, demo shout, revenge, shield wall.
And slow DPS.
Thunder armor, shield
you got
wall,
it.
revenge, shield slam, thunder armor, heroic strike, shield block, revenge. The tank rotation, gotta be honest, it's pretty fun. Heroic strike is on the next attack. Shield block is off global cooldown.
I was like, who died?
You can blood rage to gain rage.
Tons.
For more threat. For more shield slams. Heroic strike.
I'm gonna put renew on you, you can tap.
Okay.
And if you see on the boss there's no thunderclap, you can shield slam heroic strike battle stance, thunderclap defensive stance, revenge shield block. If you wanted to. I mean, that's a pretty good combo. So yeah, I've heard that the majority of players now play the game like this, where they're shouting out their abilities as though there's some kind of character in a fighting game, and that this is the new normal for World of Warcraft play. I know many people who browse Facebook and Twitter, they're not privy to all these new gaming things, so that's what I try to be here for, just clearing things up for the different generations who are trying to make sense of this whole sphere that we call e-gaming or sports. And thanks again, my name is Jimothy Stubble Bubble, and it's a pleasure to help you stay up to date, stay current, and also learn from history with all of these amazing topics in the year 2019. That's it from me. I will see you next time.